What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to talk about the headshot problem in Black Ops 6. From what I've seen in the community, this is one of the bigger complaints that I see that's directly tied to intentional gameplay balance. Like, sure, it's not as big of a complaint as the connection issues and some of the performance issues and bugs that are going on with the game, but as far as decisions that were deliberately made for the game, a lot of people are not on board with the current state of headshots, and I think a lot of those complaints are very valid, and I wanted to go through those today. Essentially, when it comes to headshots in this game, they're quite weak. Without the CHF barrel, so by default, in the maximum damage range, most assault rifles require 3 to 4 headshots in order to reduce the number of shots to kill. For SMGs in the maximum damage range, headshots are literally useless. For LMGs, it usually takes about 3 headshots to help. And with marksman rifles, only one gun benefits from headshots, and that's the Sarkov, which does have a one-shot headshot potential, but the others don't benefit from headshots by default at all. And then even with that CHF barrel, which boosts our headshot damage multiplier, assault rifles are still taking 2 to 3 headshots to kill. SMGs are taking 2 to 4 headshots to kill, LMGs 2 to 3, and then with marksman rifles, it's generally useless to use the CHF barrel, at least within the maximum damage ranges. And this just seems really strange for an FPS game that headshots are not really helping all that much. And it has a lot of people wondering, why did Treyarch go this route? Why did they do this? And the most likely answer for this is consistency in time to kill, especially with all the movement and stuff that's going on this year. They really wanted to make the time to kill element very consistent, which is also why we don't have separate body multipliers this time around, aside from with guns like sniper rifles, for instance. And this definitely does lead to fewer situations where it just feels like you get insta-deleted by a gun. It seems the time to kill is generally quite consistent, when your connection is good at least. Of course, there is that insta-melt feeling due to connection, but on a good connection, the time to kill in this game is quite consistent overall, and part of the reason for that is due to the fact that headshots often don't help at all. So when a gun is a 4-shot kill gun, it's going to take 4 shots to kill in almost every situation when they're in their maximum damage range. Additionally, another possible reason that they wanted to keep headshot multipliers low is to reduce those luck-based situations, because when you add flinch into the equation, Call of Duty's flinch will kick you upward toward the head. I've done a full breakdown on flinch. If you guys have missed that, I will leave that link down below. But with flinch in the equation, if you have really powerful headshots to the point where you only need 1 headshot mixed in with body shots to cut down on the number of shots to kill, well, that's going to happen quite often, and it's not even because you were aiming at the head, it's just because you happen to get flinched upward and hit them in the head. And you could even argue that it kind of rewards you for being shot because it automatically flinches you to the head and you don't have to actually aim for the head. So it's not really rewarding good accuracy and good aim, it's rewarding luck. And then finally, I do think one of the big reasons they're doing this with headshots and keeping that headshot multiplier low is actually for the competitive scene. What we saw early on in this game's lifecycle is they did toy around with having a higher headshot multiplier, especially for assault rifles up close. And when this happened, pretty much immediately, the competitive scene started banning or GAing any gun that had a decent headshot potential, like the Model L, for instance, back when headshots were balanced that way. And so I suspect, at least to some degree, that re-nerf to the headshot multiplier that they did was in response to the competitive scene. And I do think overall, those are the primary reasons we're seeing weaker headshots this time around. However, this does lead to several problems. And the first one is quite obvious. It just feels wrong in an FPS game to pump so many shots into somebody's head and not see any benefit whatsoever for hitting the head. Like in so many cases, it takes you the exact same number of shots to the head as it does to the toe to kill somebody. And that's just a really weird feeling when playing an FPS game. Additionally, their camo grind this year is mostly headshots. The vast majority of time you spend grinding camos is trying to get headshots, and it just seems really strange to make that a huge emphasis of the camo grind while making headshots practically useless by default. Another issue with having weak headshots by default is this adds power to holding angles and sitting on head glitches, because with powerful headshots, if somebody's head glitching something and all you can really see is their head, it's at least somewhat easier to combat those people, because that little bit that you can see is at least an area where you're dealing critical damage, and it will reduce the time to kill against them, assuming you can hit that really small target. Now, it can be argued that we've got crazy movement in this game, and that's more than enough to combat the head glitching playstyle. Instead of beating them with superior accuracy with headshots, now you beat them with superior movement and cause them to miss their shots. But still, I think there is merit to that first point. With weak headshots, head glitching is more powerful than it would be otherwise. And then the last thing I wanted to mention here is we have the CHF barrel. This is the barrel which has the sole purpose of improving our headshot potential, However, even with this barrel, we're often seeing very moderate improvement to headshot potential. It's typically still going to require multiple headshots mixed in with body shots to improve your time to kill. And as a result of that, when you're also looking at the downside of the CHF barrel, which is noticeably more recoil, in most cases, in my experience, that increase to recoil outweighs that small headshot benefit. And more often than not, even if I'm only going for headshots, I'm trying to grind camos on a gun, I typically stay away from the CHF barrel because if I have to hit multiple headshots anyway, I'd rather be more accurate without the CHF barrel so I can hit those headshots more consistently rather than slightly increasing my headshot power, but now I'm missing shots on a more regular basis. So overall, there's a pretty big list of problems with having this weak headshot potential. And in my opinion, it's not in a great state right now in Black Ops 6. So this is where I wanted to provide my feedback, my ideal balance. If I was in charge, what I would like to try with headshots, given what we've already got in the game without totally restructuring how the game works on a fundamental level or anything. But what I would love to see is without the CHF barrel, I feel most full auto guns should require 2 headshots mixed in with body shots in their maximum damage range in order to reduce the number of shots to kill and therefore improve your time to kill potential. Now, some of the more powerful guns, you could still keep that headshot multiplier fairly weak, maybe require 3 headshots with those ones, just to keep those ones in check so they're not completely overpowered. And then maybe with some of the weaker time to kill weapons, you could even make it 1 headshot by default to help. Although I would be a bit more hesitant to do that. But by making it so on average it requires 2 headshots to help, that will still prevent that lucky random flinch headshot from giving you a faster time to kill potential, and it will now reward actively aiming for the head and actually giving that general feeling of headshots being worthwhile by default, which is how I feel it should be. By default, even when we do have an attachment to help with our headshot multiplier, I think by default headshots should at least mean something. But speaking of that CHF barrel, since we're not talking about totally reworking things and eliminating attachments entirely, if the CHF barrel is going to exist, I would then make it so most full auto guns now only take 1 or maybe 2 headshots mixed in with body shots in order to help. Now, there is a very justifiable concern with that. By only needing 1 headshot mixed in with body shots, you start to get back into that territory of those random lucky flinch headshots coming to the equation and changing the outcome of a gunfight. So at the same time, I wouldn't be opposed to a bit more of a downside to compensate for that more powerful headshot multiplier. Perhaps it could even very slightly slow down your aim down sight speed or something like that, just so that it doesn't become the obvious crutch choice on every single setup. But my main thought process here is if you're going to have an attachment that's sole upside and sole purpose is improving headshot multiplier, well, in my eyes, you should see a very significant benefit in that area. It should actually be helping you very consistently, even if it requires more downsides to compensate for that extra power that you're giving it. And in my opinion, at least, with the CHF barrel, if you're actively working toward those headshot camos, and that is your goal 100% going into a match, then the CHF barrel should be your best option more often than not for that specific purpose. Now, perhaps it shouldn't be your best option all around in all cases, but yes, if you're grinding headshots, the headshot barrel should probably be a no-brainer for you. And at the moment, like I said, that's just not the case. Most of the time, I'd rather just maintain accuracy and take that extra shot to kill, knowing that I can at least be more accurate with my shots. And in my eyes, that would be the ideal headshot balance with what we've currently got in Black Ops 6. I think if you're landing 2 headshots mixed in with body shots, more often than not, that should be helping even without having to use an attachment. And then if you are using an attachment, that should actually have some very notable power in the area where it's meant to have power. Now, at the end of the day, this is far from my personal biggest gripe with the game. It's just something I've seen a lot of people talk about. Personally, I'm not really having that much of an issue getting those headshots for camos. Basically, all you have to do is instead of aiming from the head from the beginning, you start by aiming at their chest and you walk your shot up to the head, and you just have to make sure the last bullet is hitting them in the head. So it's not really that big of a deal to work around, but I do think there's clear room for improvement here. And I do think the game overall would feel better, and many situations would just make more sense within the context of an FPS game if headshots were at least a bit more useful than they currently are. Now, of course, these are just my opinions on the headshot situation in Black Ops 6, and this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How do you feel about the current state of headshot balancing in this game? Do you guys like the fact that headshots are not very powerful at all? They rarely come into the equation, and you get a really consistent time to kill as a result of this? Or would you rather see headshots have more power than they currently do? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.